Are you seeking a dynamo speaker for your meeting, conference, or organization? Internationally recognized keynote speaker and New York Times bestselling author and lifestyle coach, Cynthia Brian, will bring her energetic expertise, passionate professionalism, and ebullient personality to your event. Hailed as an expert in lifestyle, women's issues, self-help, personal balance, leadership, media, gardening, and interior design topics, Cynthia Brian is a popular empowerment keynote speaker around the world, lecturing to audiences of 100 to 5,000. For rates and bookings, call 925-377-STAR, 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 and visit www.cynthiabrian.com. When you want the best, book Cynthia Brian, www.cynthiabrian.com.
You have a plan for your life. You've set goals. You know where you want to go. Congratulations on finding Starstyle. Be the star you are. Our vibrant hosts, passion, purpose, and possibility producer Cynthia Brian and her energetic daughter, healthy living specialist Heather Brittany, share the best roads, fastest detours, and successful strategies for a life worth living. Reach your potential with their personal achievement coaching, miracle moments, inspiring guests, titillating interviews, and business bites. Be introduced to new books and innovative ideas that encourage you to live a positive, sustainable lifestyle while achieving your dreams. Ignite your power. Make a difference in the world and shoot for the stars. It's the Power Hour of living, loving, laughing, and learning. On Starstyle, be the star you are. Lend us your ears. The party starts now.
Never say never. Live your dream.
Well, hello, Power Partners, and welcome to our playground, Starstyle, Be the Star You Are. I'm your host, Cynthia Brian, with my co-host.
I'm Heather Brittany.
And we are here with you on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. And we have a terrific show for you today because we're going to be talking about the upcoming Screen Actors Guild Awards, the Golden Globes, and we have a very special guest in our second and third segment, Simon Vance, who is an acclaimed narrator for more than 700 audiobooks as well as an actor. So you're going to find out what's the voice behind all of those books. So we hope to have you enjoying a great conversation with us. Today's Miracle Moment is brought to you by Be the Star You Are's charity's 10th annual essay contest. There are only 2 more days to enter, so get your entry in by going to Starstyle Radio, click on events, and this Miracle Moment is a common experience that a problem difficult at night is resolved in the morning after the Committee of Sleep has worked on it. And guess who that is? John Steinbeck. I love that because, Heather, I don't know about you, but sometimes I go to bed at night and I just feel like there are so many challenges. And I think, how am I going to get through it all? And then somehow you go to bed and I guess those little angels or fairies or whatever it is come in through the middle of the night and it's all good. It all works out. So I thought that was a really good a good one for us for today. So the 2014 Screen Actors Guild Awards. It is the 20th Screen Actors Guild Awards. Then they're coming up this weekend, and everyone is going to be able to watch them. And, of course, Heather and I are getting to vote on them. And so that's really fun. Did you watch the Golden Globes at all, Heather?
I watched bits and pieces of it, and I've seen all the highlights of since after, and as we know, it's quote unquote award season now, and everything's really leading up to the Academy Awards. But throughout the years, there's been more of the things that the Golden Globes, and then it is the SAG Awards, and then following that, it will be the Academy Awards. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and also there was the People's Choice Awards too.
Exactly.
Right, and actually tomorrow they're going to be announcing the Academy Awards and the nominees. And of course, you can't help but wonder. you can't help but wonder if that, when you find out that the Golden Globes, that these are the ones who won, if it affects the Academy in any way, I don't know. I don't know if that happens or not. But let's talk about it. Let's just talk quickly about the Golden Globes, because that happened this past weekend on Sunday. And, this year, I am really proud to say that I have watched every single movie that was up for an award. And so I really feel confident, this year that I am able to, to participate. So, What about you?
Of all the awards that were nominated for the Golden Globes or for the Screen Actors Award?
Well, either or.
Interestingly enough, I have not seen everything yet. But in relation to, what's similar with the Golden Globes and SAG is some of the categories that the Academy Awards is just for the cinema, for film, while the Golden Globes as well as the SAG Awards do have some of the television series in it. So I'm up with all of the television series and the mini-series, but I still have not seen all of the nominated films, even though we do, have access to all of them. Just the deadline, approaching, and I just know the things that stood out with me the most. But regarding, the certain aspects for the Golden Globes, for television, I've seen everything and almost all of the films.
Well, let's talk about the Screen Actors Guild Award and the 2014 nominees, because, again, that's what's coming up this weekend, and people are going to be able to watch the awards. They are going to be on TNT and TBS. They start Saturday, January 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then there'll be an encore presentation on TNT at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. Pacific, and of course you'll be able also to stream it. But for motion pictures, they do it a little differently than the Academy Awards, because they have a outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. And the ones nominated were 12 Years a Slave, American Hustle, August Osage County, Dallas Buyers Club, and Lee Daniels' The Butler. And with the exception of August Osage County, which I thought was an absolutely horrible movie. The play is good. The movie was horrible. Even though what's amazing about that movie is it stars some of the absolute, some of the biggest, the biggest stars. Meryl Streep is in it, and Julia Roberts, and all of that. Anyway.
Which kind of shows something, too. I think oftentimes, sometimes what we see is, amazing actors, can make, I don't want to say a terrible film, but not, that doesn't mean anything. Or sometimes people, you feel sometimes people are nominated or win just because they're sometimes at the end of their career, that people feel, actor X has been nominated so many times, or, they're 85 now, this is their last chance. Or almost that, as you were saying, that Meryl Streep, we have it here at the house. I'll probably right after the show watch it, just because the negative feedback I've heard is that it's based off a play, and that the play has is older and has received so much acclaim. What via you and other people who watched this film said, I don't know how it's even nominated as a comedy, or even as a black comedy, a dark comedy.
I agree with you. I didn't see how it was even nominated.
There's no funny moments.
I'm a person that I've watched, when I watch something, I watch it start to finish. And this was one of those movies I could not even finish. I couldn't finish. I actually turned it off halfway through, and I thought, that's enough. I'm not going to waste my time. But anyway, let's talk about what you voted for, because I'll tell you what I thought, with the exception of August Osage County, which I hated, I thought that 12 Years a Slave, American Hustle, Dallas Buyers Club, and Lee Daniels' The Butler were phenomenal. But my choice, what I voted for, was 12 Years a Slave. What about you?
For best film?
Yeah, best film. Best film, 12 Years a Slave.
For me, I personally said Dallas Buyers Club. I was so affected by that. It made me feel as though Philadelphia, as you remember
right,
that,
right.
Which it's the thing that really stood out for me is one, the story, and it's based on true story, and it was so well acted, just so amazing. But there's the transformation that these actors went through, that both, Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto lost, I think 45 or 50 pounds, and on a man, becoming these men that are, 6'2" or taller, and only weighing in at, maybe 110, 125. It was physically, painful, but showing the portrayal of it to really be men that are dying of AIDS. And it just made me think so much of, within the film, with Philadelphia, how it was an amazing story based on a true story, and also how at that time Tom Hanks went through that physical transformation to be,
right.
Honest to the character, to, and which really shows, if it was the Matthew McConaughey, which we know of, as this hunky, or the Magic Mike kind of star of it. If you would see that, you wouldn't. I don't think it would really be honest to show that someone who's physically going through that, and especially someone who was going through that in the 80s, when it was just sort of coming out, that there wasn't the treatments and the medicines available to people right now, that it was so it's so much further along that people were being diagnosed or receiving any kind of treatment. So I was just blown away.
That gets me
so
to the
affected.
next thing, though, is outstanding performance by a male actor, because I will tell you, in that category, again, although every single one of the men who were nominated, Bruce Dern, I can't even pronounce his name, Chiwetel Ejiofor, who played Solomon Northrop in 12 Years a Slave, Tom Hanks, Matthew McConaughey, Forrest Whitaker. I voted for Matthew McConaughey because I thought that he made such a transformation, was so incredibly outstanding, that was just, it was amazing. Yeah. I thought it was amazing. So, I obviously, you probably voted for Matthew, too, as Best Actor.
I did. And, and again, there is so, I think, what, sometimes it's hard. There's so many, phenomenal actors. And it, really, so one thing if we might not have addressed, is who votes on those things. As you know, the People's Choice Award, I feel like, is a very new kind of award that's, saying that people, the Academy Award is a very, distinct people within the nominated. It's same, the Golden Globes is the foreign press. And so, a lot of times things, win that people had no ideas about or anything, but the Screen Actors Guild, it's actors voting on actors. It's all of the television, film, radio. It's actors voting for actors. So it's people, within your own craft, voting for each other. So
and that's what makes it so special, because it's peers. It's
exactly.
Peers,
it's being nominated by your peers, and I think that's a very different thing, that people in this industry view things very different, or so impressed by an actor's skill, or a director, or a film as an ensemble. So it is quite, any awards is always an honor to win or nominated. But I think what's so special about the SAG Awards is, again, that it is your peers. It's not based on the sales of a movie or the press it received, or this very close alliance of people. It's based on all your fellow actors. That I think it's a big thing for an actor, to saying that within your craft, that other actors believe you this year to be the best director, to be the best actor.
Well, let's go to I agree with you. Let's go to the outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role, because I think what was so exciting about this the Screen Actors Guild Awards this year, or the entire awards era, these next couple of months of awards that we're doing, is how amazing every film and every actor is. So for female, it was Cate Blanchett in Blue Jasmine, Sandra Bullock in Gravity, Judi Dench in Philomena, Meryl Streep, August Osage County, and Emma Thompson in Saving Mr. Banks. And as
Which
much
is,
as
just seeing those names in paper, I mean, that is an amazing
I know.
list of actors.
It's a huge lineup. Yeah, it's a huge lineup. But just for me, for me, it was a real tie between Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett. And there was a part of me that I want to vote for Cate Blanchett because I actually worked in Blue Jasmine. So it's always fun. I've had the privilege of working in several Academy Award-winning movies and SAG Award-winning movies and Golden Globe Award-winning movies. And, working with Woody Allen was really fun. And I thought she did a super job. But I have to tell you, when I saw Philomena, Judi Dench blew it out of the ballpark. And so my vote went to Judi Dench. How about you?
And so, it was hard for me too because I just recently watched Philomena and I thought it was a beautiful story. Sad but beautiful. And again, Lady Dame, just such a phenomenal, actress. And but I did, it was interesting that you said that was what your kind of your tie was. I did go with Cate Blanchett.
Well, and I think she's going to probably sweep it. She did get it for the, as Matthew did at the Golden Globes. They both won. Now, going to an actor in a male supporting role, I know that you were 100% Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, but I understand, you had shared. So I don't have to cut you off who you voted for.
Well, I was going to vote for Jared Leto, and I thought he did a brilliant, brilliant job, and he did win Golden Globes, and I am sure that, he'll probably win at the SAG Awards too. However, especially since I've been an acting coach for so many years, I, again, was blown out of the water by Barkad Abdi, who played Muse in Captain Phillips. This is a Somalis young man who has never been in a film as far as I know.
Exactly. This was his
first debut as actor. And he made me believe so much that he was a pirate, I was scared to death. And I thought anybody who can do that, they have to get my vote. So I went with him. Although, again, with all these great people in it, it was amazing. Well, guess what, Heather? We are out of time.
Oh my gosh, we barely
as always, we didn't even get to go through this, but I want to encourage everyone to tune in to the Screen Actors Guild Awards. It is going to be the 20th year that this has been happening, and I've been voting since day one, and actually Heather's been on the committee to choose the award, so it's been really exciting. They will be simulcast live coast to coast on TNT and TBS this coming Saturday, January 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And it'll be a really wonderful presentation. And we'll talk more at another time about what our votes are, but coming right up is going to be Simon Vance. You will know him because he is a renowned narrator, and he's also a member of the union, so we'll find out what he thinks are the great movies of the year. Heather, give out the websites.
Most definitely. We want you to go to BeTheStarYouAre.com as well as BeTheStarYouAre.org.
All right. Well, we'll be right back. My name is Cynthia Brian.
And I'm Heather Brittany.
And you're listening to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are. Don't go away. Simon Vance is coming.
The star you are. Be the star you are. You are the star.
Follow us on Twitter for more great ideas at Voice America Empowerment.
Be the star you are. Light up the flame that burns.
Low literacy and poor communication skills have been identified in studies as major contributors to general conduct disorders, psychiatric disorders, criminal behavior, and adolescent suicide. To live and prosper in this society, we must be lifelong learners with access to knowledge and skills that can sustain our lives at work, at home, and in our communities. Be the Star You Are 501c3 charity has been working to increase literacy and improve positive message programming since 1999. You can help by making a tax-deductible donation today. Visit www.bethestaryouare.org. Everybody counts. www.bethestaryouare.org.
Be the lucky star you
Get autographed copies of New York Times bestselling author Cynthia Brian's books at www.starstyleradio.com. Get inspired and motivated to be your best self with Be the Star You Are, 99 gifts, and Be the Star You Are for teens. Buy cases at a deep discount to give away as gifts and premiums. Visit www.starstyleradio.com or call 925-377-STAR. 925-377-STAR. 925-377-STAR.
Be the star you are. You are the star.
Pump up your energy and jumpstart your dreams with positive, life-changing interviews and star-studded conversations on our award-winning program, Starstyle. Be the Star You Are. Hosted by the passion, purpose, and possibility producer, Cynthia Brian. Now, back to the Power Party.
Find all you need in a light that shines.
Well, the secret to every success lies not in what or even who you know, but in clearly seeing where you want to go. And here at Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, we believe you have the power to have it all, and we intend to help you get going in the right direction and keep on going. Thank you for staying with me. My name is Cynthia Brian. You are listening to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Well, if you love books, and especially audiobooks, if you listen to audiobooks, chances are you have enjoyed the voice acting of renowned narrator Simon Vance. He is a former BBC presenter from London. He is critically acclaimed narrator of over 700 audiobooks. He's won 47 AudioFile Earphones Awards. He's a 10-time Audie Award recipient, including the 2012 Audie Award for Best Solo Male Narration, and he was named the Golden Voice by AudioFile Magazine, and Booklist Magazine named him its first voice of choice. In other words, he's like an Oscar winner. You know, it's like he's won a Golden Globe. Hello, Simon. Welcome to Starstyle. Be the Star You Are.
Hi, Cynthia. I'm blushing now.
Yeah, well, you have won so many awards, and you're just so great at what you do. And I'm just thrilled that you're joining us. And we're going to talk about all these incredible books that you've done and how you do it and all of that. But I want the listeners to know that, of course, you are also a member of Screen Actors Guild AFTRA, and we'll also talk about your acting. I mean, because voice acting is acting, and I know you do acting as well. So what do you think of this new awards, you know, the SAG Award, the 20th SAG Awards that are coming up this weekend? Have you had a chance to vote, or do you know who you're going to be voting for?
I've got a pretty good idea. I've seen almost all of them. It's really hard when you're given, these lists of nominated movies and you don't have time to see them all because you feel like might be leaving something out. And it's hard to say, well, just because everybody else is voting for them, I should vote for them. I need to vote for the ones I've seen and loved. And I have to say, the top movie for me right now is Gravity. I love that movie.
Did you love
favorite.
Gravity? Did
Yeah.
you actually see it in 3D, or did you see it on DVD, or how did you see it?
I'm not normally a fan of 3D. I think it's overblown. But with Gravity, I think you had to see it in 3D. I haven't yet seen it in 2D, and I don't know what it's like when it's going to come out on the DVD, because it'll be kind of flattened, but I think it'll still be pretty impressive, and the performances were wonderful. But for me, it was just the whole concept of the movie and the way, Cuarón put together, I don't know how he put together that movie, and the way it moved, the way the camera moved, and the whole sense of outer space. Being, a kid brought up in the 60s, I just loved outer space, wanted to be an astronaut myself, and I think it's one of the things that makes Gravity so appealing to me.
Didn't you change your mind about wanting to be an astronaut, though, after seeing Gravity? Because I was actually freaked out. I felt when I saw it, I loved the movie. I thought that the acting was just superb and all of that. But at the same time, I felt claustrophobic. But of course, the director won for Best Directors at the Golden Globes. And that was rather interesting, because usually that was Alfonso Cuarón, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But in any case, usually like Best Picture, Best Actor, and and Best Director kind of go together. But this year the Golden Globes were all over the place. They really spread it all out. But
yeah, I think that's true. I mean, there are so many good performances around right now that it's hard. It's not like there's one big blockbuster that reaps everything. It's spread around. I think it was quite fair what happened. I like that.
I did too, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we as actors vote on our peers, because as Heather and I were talking about in the first segment, I marked my list of who I wanted, and then I would see another movie, and I would think, oh my goodness, there were so many. It was really, really, really hard to make a decision, I thought. I think one of the best things about the SAG Awards is because it's actors for actors, but also one of the categories is ensembles. The best ensemble, which I think is what acting is all about. We don't always act, gravity allowing, we don't always act in a vacuum. We act with other actors, and that's the other actors that help make us what we are. That's exactly right. And I think when you see these ensembles, the interesting thing with that outstanding performance by a cast, they were all so excellent. And one thing I was really excited to see in the Golden Globes, and I don't know what will happen for the Academy Awards, but he was not nominated for the SAG Awards, was I was really happy to see Leonardo DiCaprio get a Golden Globe. And it was funny that it was as in a musical or comedy for The Wolf of Wall Street, because I do not think of DiCaprio as a comedic actor.
No, but I've heard great things. That's one I haven't seen yet, but I have heard great things about it.
Yeah, but he was great. Well, let's get to you as an actor, as a voice actor. So over the years, you have done well over 700 books. And I'm sure you're always asked what are favorites, but it's like picking your children. But some of the best-selling performances you've done The King's Speech, you did Ian Fleming's Casino Royale, you did Help, you did Picture of Dorian Gray, you did all 21 titles of Master and Commander. What was your background? I know that you started on the BBC, so why don't you give us an idea of what is a book narrator, what's involved in doing this? Because after I heard you speak about what you do, I thought, oh my goodness, this is really hard work. This is really hard. This is, to me, is much harder than acting.
It's a funny thing. I don't know quite. I never quite know how to answer this because it's different for different ages. I grew up. There was not such a thing as an audiobook narrator. There's been maybe one or two audiobooks. Dylan Thomas and that sort of thing had recorded their poems or their books and so on. J.R.R. Tolkien had something, but there wasn't something you leapt out of bed and said, one day I'm going to be an audiobook narrator. I think what happened for me is that I listened to the spoken word a lot. I grew up in England. Radio, there's a very strong radio background in England. Radio 4 is the speech-based network. That happens to be the one I worked for in the 80s as a newsreader and a regular continuity presenter. But even before that, in the 60s, I grew up listening to the radio, listening to the news, listening to stories being told on the radio, listening to comedy programs like The Goons, wonderful shows, Peter Sellers and so on, back in those days. And I think those all influenced me to play with sound, to play with my voice, my father gave me I say that my father gave me a tape recorder when I was about 11, and I started making silly noises and silly voices into it, and I've never stopped. It's just a joy I have. There's a sort of a freedom in just using your voice. Now that, over the years, I try to do other things, but I've usually ended up in the studio somehow. And as you pointed out earlier, I do other acting and so on and so forth. But clearly, my strength is in my voice at the moment. And when I came to California about 20 years ago from England, I was looking for some work to do outside of theater. I was doing theater as well, but theater doesn't pay very much, and I needed to have a day job. And a friend of a friend introduced me to one of the fledgling audiobook companies. It was the one based in Ashland, Oregon, called Blackstone Audiobooks. I auditioned, and I got work with them. And several of the things you mentioned there, like the Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander series, I did all the Ian Fleming James Bond books. Those were all done for Blackstone Audiobooks. So I sort of fell into it backwards, if you like. I mean, it wasn't something I said, I'm going to do this. Nowadays, I think you need to be able to get up and say, I want to be an audiobook narrator. But for me, it was something I sort of slid into sideways, and fortunately, it's one of my strengths.
Well, let's talk about the voices, Simon, because, I am an author of 6 books. And so we think, oh, goodness, since I've written the books, I could narrate the books. But the answer is no. What you do when you take a book is you actually create the characters. And so you have to create voices. How do you remember the voices that you create?
Well, let me step back. It's an interpretation of the characters. Yes, the characters are there, but the characters are there already created by, say, Charles Dickens or yourself if you're, writing a novel or something like that. So it's my interpretation in the same way, partially the way a film actor creates a character from a book as well. How I remember those characters, for me, I tend to hook voices onto mental pictures. So, say, for instance, in Charles Dickens, he fortunately tends to describe his characters quite fully, often before they open their mouths. So you get this description of a large, friendly guy with very loose jowls, and he comes from a certain part of the country, so you've got accent. And a lot of the work is done for you in that pre-description, and I just launch into what I think that's going to sound like, and 99% of the time it's the voice I stick with. In my head, I may have either that picture exactly like a cartoon of who this character is and the voice comes with it, and another little trick I do is I think of an actor who might be portraying this character in the book, and I give my interpretation of that actor's voice. So there's, if you remember Alec Guinness, who was a very famous British actor from some years ago.
Yeah, a wonderful actor.
Yeah, and he had a particular way of speaking, and funny, I can't tend to do it just off the hat like this, but I would say, okay, this is my Alec Guinness voice. And so every time this particular character came back, I'd see Alec Guinness walking back into the room, and I'd do my Alec Guinness voice. Now, I'm not a mimic, so nobody could say, oh, there's Simon doing Alec Guinness, or, my God, that sounds like Alec Guinness. But it would help me hook into who that character is and what he sounds like.
But do you, when you have a book, Simon, that has numerous characters, and maybe characters from other countries. For example, you did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Stieg Larsson's book. First of all, you have names that are hard to pronounce, and they're, in different languages, basically, and they may have accents or whatever. Do you like to get into those accents? Do you have to, do you ever record it and say, okay, this is, one person's voice, and then you can go back to it? Or do you just remember these in your head with those cues that you gave yourself?
Well, a lot of people, different narrators have different ways of remembering, and I know my colleague Scott Brick will keep voice files on hand when he does a series, and that's something I should absolutely do, but I don't because I'm lazy some of the time. What I will find I do if a book comes back, it's like the second or third in a series, I'll actually go back to the first recording I did and track down those voices that I gave it if I don't remember them. In something like A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, which is set in Sweden, 99% of it, I'm not going to give them Swedish accents because in their heads, when they're talking to each other, they don't hear foreign accents. They hear their own accents.
Right, good point, yeah.
What I'm doing is translating it, and in that case, translating it to England, which is where I come from, and so I'm trying to find the voices that I think they'd have if they were English. So they'd be working class, they'd be middle class, they'd be aristocracy or the wealthy, or they come from the north of the country, or they come from the south, or they'd be rural. And so all those different English accents I translate to the foreign book. I mean, in the sense that the writer wrote in Swedish, but it is translated for me to read in English. So I'm just translating the sounds of the voices to English too.
Now, what's the audition process like for a book? Do you ever meet with the author? Do you talk to him over the phone? Do you submit, a sample of how you would do 10 pages? How does that work? Or now that you're just so renowned and won so many awards, do certain authors or their publishers just decide, hey, Simon Vance is our man?
Well, Well, it's all of the above, really, fortunately.
Now, that's a good place to be in, right, Simon,
Yeah,
when they ask
absolutely.
for you personally?
Oh, yeah, and it happens now to a lot of narrators, fortunately. But in the early days, it was down to the publisher of the audiobook. Authors didn't think much about the audiobooks. Their agents would give the rights to a publisher, and the publisher would then cast the book, and they would cast it from the talent that they know about. If they weren't sure, they would say, could you send in a couple of pages of this? And in fact, I do remember I started recording the Patrick O'Brian Master and Commander series about 2003, and I was asked by Blackstone, could I read a sample of this battle just to see how I sounded and if I was right for it. So that happens. There are, these days, fortunately, authors who know about me, and they will ask me, can we have Simon Vance? They'll go to their publishers and say, I'd like to have Simon Vance do this. Or, yes, they will say, I don't know who I want, but I want to be in on the decision-making. These days, it's become much more important to the narrator, to the author to get the right narrator, and they will say, can you send me half a dozen voices? And so, yes, I've had to send voices, samples into people. Unfortunately, what's happened is that, especially if they're writing a series, I will get called back to do the rest of the series.
And that's the best place you can possibly be when you get to do two. You get to do both series now, or the whole. Maybe besides the series, maybe their next book or a friend of theirs' book. Now, did you create a studio in your home or office? Technology is so great now. What was necessary for you to create, the studio that you needed? What kind of equipment did you need?
Well, it certainly got a lot easier these days than it was back then. And, of course, over the years, I've got some quite high-level equipment in my studio. Back in the beginning, in 1993, I believe it was, I started in the corner of the garage. I just had a cassette machine that had a sort of stop-start on it, and I put some curtains around the corner of the garage, and I recorded in there.
That's amazing to think about that happened there. You didn't have to go into a studio. They didn't make you go into a professional audio studio and then send it off to the publisher?
That was happening if you were in New York or Los Angeles, you did that. Blackstone Audiobooks used home narrators, and so as long as you could find a quiet environment, and we lived off a side street and the garage was quite far back from the road, so it was quiet, and I stopped every time the garbage truck went by. But that was a short period, and it slowly stepped up from that, corner of a bedroom, a closet, and then I invested in a single-wall studio, a 6x4 thing. There are companies out there that make these, like Voice Booth and so on, or Vocal Booth, and you can purchase these things and install them in your house. And so that's where I'm at now, and I've upgraded from, I think I started on a $50 Shure microphone. This is 20 years ago. I've now got the U87, the top-of-the-range sort of vocal microphone, so it's a little more expensive now. But there's a balance here, and it is possible to begin with a cheaper microphone. They're talking now like $200, $250 for a microphone, and the software, I use a particular kind of software which can cost $100 or more, but there's a kind that is free that you can use called Audacity. The technical side of it has become much, much easier, but the craft, the ability, the thing you have to learn to be able to do it is every bit as hard as it ever was. And so just sort of saying, as I've seen recently online, there was somebody going around saying, anybody can be an audiobook narrator. You just need a $50 microphone and a free software and you can do it. Well, on a technical level, yes, but from an ability level, there's a lot more involved.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And all I have to do is spend 2 minutes with you to find out or to listen to one of your books on audiobook, and they'll know that this is definitely for a professional. Well, I want you to stay with us if you don't mind. We're going to come right back after the break. You're going to find out more about Simon Vance and his books and any favorites that he might have and what's coming up, and also a little bit about his on-camera acting and other acting that he has done. So my name is Cynthia Brian. You're listening to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Simon Vance will be back with us.
Be the star you are. The star you are. Be the star you are. You are the star.
Change your world. Change your life. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
Business Bites. Here's Cynthia Brian.
Do you know how to soar in sales and personal success? Well, first you have to learn from the people who have done what you want to do, not from those who just talk about it. When leading others, always be aware of their weaknesses, but speak to their strengths. People will improve when you improve. Adversity will build or break you. It strips away your veneer and uncovers the real person. Developing your personal library of books is the secret to long-time success. Books are like borrowed heroes. It's like doing a brain transplant from their brain into yours. Plan to keep learning and keep living right up until the end. Thomas Edison was asked when he was going to retire, and he said, the day before the funeral, remember, you're the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Brian with another business bite from Starstyle. For more information on coaching, visit star-style.com or call 925-377-STAR.
This business of show business is calling out to me.
Get started acting or modeling with a consultation from media coach extraordinaire Cynthia Brian, who has guided entertainment careers for over 2 decades. Call 925-377-STAR or visit www.cynthiabrian.com. Pick up a copy of her award-winning book, The Business of Show Business, and start living your dreams today. Call 925-377-STAR. 925-377-STAR.
Be the star you are. You are the star.
Plug in your headphones and tune in to enlightening interviews with acclaimed authors and successperts as our Oprah of the airwaves, Cynthia Brian, gabs with the gurus. Lend us your ears for the Power Hour on Starstyle. Be the star you are. Now, here's Cynthia Brian.
Find all you need in a light that shines.
We know you have a plan for your life. You've set goals. You know where you want to go. There's always detours, but that's where we come in right here every week with you on Starstyle. Be the star you are, bringing you the authors, the experts, and books that inspire, entertain, and motivate you. We want to help you ignite your power and shoot for the stars. My name is Cynthia Brian. You're listening to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. And our guest for today truly is a success expert. He is the acclaimed narrator of over 700 audiobooks. He's also a voice actor and an actor. And not so long ago, he worked in the television CBS series Criminal Minds. It's Simon Vance. Hello again, Simon. Thank you for staying with us. So how was it going? I know that you've been acting and doing the voice thing for a long time, but you know, when you actually have to use your whole body and use the whole experience, how was that working on Criminal Minds?
Well, it's interesting you should say I used my whole body. I did. I got murdered and lay on the floor wearing women's underwear, naked.
Oh my God! Isn't that crazy when you have to get murdered? Because you have to learn how to die.
Well, fortunately, it wasn't entirely on camera. I was. It was an episode a couple of weeks before Christmas on the air, and I was basically sitting with my wife. She went to make popcorn. She screamed. I went after her. At which point, as I was walking into the kitchen, they stopped the camera. They swapped me out for a stunt double, and then they started filming again. And the guy ran and banged me over to the floor, and that was it. And the next time I'm seeing the cast of, the main detectives and so on are standing around me going, naked in women's underwear, the same MO as before. So it was interesting.
But it's very fun. It really is fun, though, to play those kind of parts, isn't it? I mean, do you enjoy all phases of the acting experience, from doing the book narration, voiceovers, as well as, acting in TV shows or commercials or industrials?
Yeah, I mean, I came over here 20 years ago thinking, I'll do more acting. Maybe I'll get into screen acting, because I was doing theater over there as well as the BBC. But I ended up in San Francisco, because that's where my then wife's family were living, and which not a lot of film stuff going on. I did a bunch of Nash Bridges. I don't know if you remember that series with Don Johnson on CBS.
Yeah, I worked in Nash Bridges as well. And, unfortunately we haven't had a series, but we do have Looking, and let's hope it gets picked up again.
That's right, yes. Well, I did about 5 episodes of that, and then there was not much going on, and I focused totally on audiobooks, because at that time it was really building up, and I thought, I can't afford to be flying off elsewhere and doing other things. So I did audiobooks, and then it's just last September, my kids are just old enough, my youngest has gone off to college, and I thought I can do my own thing, so I'll go down to LA. So I'm speaking to you now from Los Angeles, and I decided to look around and do some casting director workshops, and that's when I hooked up with Criminal Minds, my first audition, which was very good, and it was fun. So I do enjoy every aspect of it. I think the worst part of it was, for this being pummeled to death, I had to wear these things on my face, bruises and built up bits and pieces of plastic were glued on my face, so I looked really gruesome, and I didn't really enjoy taking those off.
Well, and also, I think what people don't realize is when you have to have those prosthetics or you have to have that kind of makeup, how long it takes. You're sitting in the chair for hours to get all of that done, and then the removal, as you said.
Well, it's the whole filming process. I mean, I was in for maybe a minute on screen. Well, not even that, I should think. But it was a whole day. I was there. So, and the first hour and a half, 2 hours, were spent in the chair having those prosthetics attached and bruises marked all over my body.
Yeah, that really is amazing. But that is the acting, that is the acting world. We're speaking with Simon Vance, and his website is simonvance.com. He is a voice actor, an actor, and as well as a narrator for audiobooks, and has won unbelievable amount of awards, and I'm sure you've heard him in one book or another along the way. So tell us what you're doing right now, and if there's something that's, that you can talk about that's kind of exciting that's coming up.
Yeah, fortunately nothing that's embargoed as far as I know right now. That does happen. I did biography of Rod Stewart, and I wasn't allowed to talk about that until it came out. That was a sort of year ago or so. Right now, I'm actually sitting in my studio as I talk to you, and I have in front of me, halfway through the book, The Story of Music. It's non-fiction. It's based on the TV series. I think Howard Goodall did it. I don't know if it's shown on PBS yet, but that's the story of music. And the thing about this, it's non-fiction, which I usually I am enjoying, but I usually enjoy more. This one, though, is only 300 pages, but it has 1,000 pronunciations. I have a guide here of a list of all the names and the words that I have to make sure I get right, foreign musical terms and so on and so forth. So that's a bit of a burden for this one, but it's a wonderful book. And in a week I'm doing there's a new one by Camilla Läckberg. She's a Swedish writer. And she does murder mysteries, and that's coming out, or I don't know when that's coming out, but I'm going to be reading that next week. And then, excuse me, shortly after that, there's a French author called Tatiana Derone, who's doing a book called The Other Place. That's her new one, and that's coming out in a month or two. So I'm recording that. So I'm actually pretty busy right now, which is good.
But you've been busy. I mean, this whole last year, as we've spoken and we've been in contact, you have been swamped with work, which is the dream of every actor, no matter what you're involved in, is that you're actually a working actor. And you just said something about this, the 1,000 words that you're going to have to understand. What's the time frame? What is it like? How long does it take you, if you have a 300-page book? Does it depend on how challenging the characters, the words, what it is? How long does it take you to put this all together? And do you have to do the editing and make it a perfect book?
No, let's see if I can do this in brief. No, the book comes in hopefully with a couple of weeks before I actually have to put it in the studio, and I get a chance to read it through, whether it's non-fiction or fiction. It's more important if it's fiction because you need to know how the story progresses, who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, get some idea of the relationship between the people and how the story is paced. So that's very important to read that. With non-fiction, not so important. I can often sight read them without too much trouble. This is a little harder because I'm presented with a lot of pronunciations on each page that I need to get right. So there was some complication with this one because the list of pronunciations came in a slightly weird order. And what I like to do is to be able to read the page. As soon as I see the pronunciations coming up, I can check them on my list with page number and so on and so forth. And things weren't in order. So I've had to put a bit of work in getting the pronunciations in order so that I can sit here with the script in front of me right now and the pronunciations stuck on the wall to my right. numbered by page number. So that's the process. When I've recorded, and I record, there are two different ways. One is punch and roll, where you record. If you make a mistake, you jump back in the recording and you drop your voice into the last gap that's in the recording, and you carry on, or you just carry on, you make a mistake, but you pick up again immediately, beginning of the sentence again, and you do the editing afterwards. That's the way I work, but I still need someone still needs to go through it and listen to the whole thing to make sure I got all the words in the right order, and as they're written, and that is done by somebody assigned, an engineer assigned by the publisher. They put in, a lot of hours just listening through, and then they make lists of where things have gone wrong, and sometimes I only get a few for a whole book, and sometimes I get a lot, depending on how complex the book was and whether I was sleeping while I read or not. And then they get sent back, I do the corrections, I send those to the engineer, and he puts them in. Or she.
Now, this is fairly recently that audiobooks has come under contracts with Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, and I was really surprised at how, you really have to be good at this to actually make any money doing it. Otherwise, I think amateurs, it could take forever to do, and you wouldn't end up making very much money. It seems like it really is. You have to put in a lot of effort. Obviously, you have mastered this. You have mastered the system.
There's a bone of contention a little bit here because, yes, it's true, you do. And I think we've seen the same thing in voiceovers. There are people on the internet who will say, this is easy, anybody can do it. And there's these pay-to-play places that are taking money from people, and the jobs are going for $15 or $20 or $30. And a similar thing is creeping into the audiobooks. There is an ACX exchange run by Audible, which invites auditions from absolutely anyone, but it pays out on a royalty basis. So if you don't do a very good job, the book's not going to sell, and you can spend hours. There are people who are beginners who will spend 6, 8, 10 hours for each hour of audio, and you can imagine on a 10-hour book, that's a lot of work to end up with pennies. And I see this a lot around now, where people are saying, oh yes, come and do audiobooks, it's easy, all you have to do is this, as I mentioned earlier, a $50 microphone, a free bit of software, and anybody can do it. And I'm afraid it's playing on people's dreams. I don't want to stop anyone who loves books from doing this, because it's a wonderful job. If you love reading, definitely, it's worth the work. But I do think it's wrong to invite people in who just think it's a way of making money, because there's much more involved than that.
Well, I think it's like anything. When it sounds easy or looks easy, people think it's easy, but it really takes a great master. Think about people Olympics, or think about the players in the Super Bowl, or as we're talking about the Screen Actors Guild Award or the Golden Globes or the Academy Awards, these wonderful actors that make it seem so simple. It has taken years and years and years of lots of hard work and hard knocks. So you have to be really good. I always think ice skating is they make it look so easy and do these triple things. And I know during the holidays I was ice skating and it was not easy. No,
and I have to say, I come down here, I'm acting, but I'm taking classes all the time. And people say, well, acting's easy, you just have to be yourself. It's one of the hardest things in the world to just be yourself in front of the camera. It really is.
That is the hardest thing. In fact, most auditions, when they say, tell me about yourself, that is where even accomplished actors mess up, because when you really have to be who you are, it's more difficult actually than reading a script. Now, I wanted to ask you, since you have to do so many books and read so many books for work, in your free time, do you actually still enjoy reading or listening to books, or would you rather to be doing something completely different?
Most of the time I've been doing something completely different, but connected. But the funny thing is, just now, because I'm down in Los Angeles and I've been driving down from San Francisco and going back occasionally, I've actually picked up an audiobook. I'm listening to my colleague Grover Gardner's recording of Titan by Ron Chernow, the biography of John D. Rockefeller, and it's 35 hours, so it fills a lot of time. And I love listening to it. I haven't listened to an audiobook in ages. On the other hand, sitting in bed, I went through Neil Gaiman's Sandman graphic comic series recently, because it had pictures, and that's so much easier.
That was fun. Do you find that with your British accent that you it puts you in a niche, by yourself. Do you get more work because of your voice quality or specific roles, especially for your acting?
I think it's a little harder because in the American market, most of them are American thrillers. There's so much out there. I get, you can tell, I got the Swedish, Camilla Läckberg, coming in a week or so. I got a French author, Tatiana de Rone. The Story of Music is by a British author, so that's probably why I was chosen. So I tend to get the more exotic, but there's a great deal of work around, but I think I wish I was Scott Brick sometimes, because he's just the top American narrator in the country, and he gets all these wonderful Brad Metzler thrillers and so on. Must be most exciting to be able to do those too. But no, I don't know that it's. I think it was really good a few years ago because there were all the Charles Dickens and Anthony Trollops and a lot of the classics, but they've been done so many times, and I've done them as well. There aren't so many of those around, so we're waiting now on new authors producing new stuff, and I think the bulk of that is American, or seems to be.
Do you have certain authors or books that you have targeted that you would think, gee, I would really like to work on these?
I don't. No, and the thing is, I'm not out there looking because, as you said, because I don't know what the new books are that are coming out. I think if I were more active, I had more time, but unfortunately this is extremely time-consuming. I might do a little more of that kind of research. One of the things that I think some of the new people coming into the industry, there's a couple of people I'm thinking who are doing a lot of production for ACX. They are doing a lot of research and finding out what authors are selling best that haven't been done yet, and they are hooking into those and pulling them in. And that's a good way to work. For me, I tend to have been able to sit back and let the publishers send books to me, so I haven't had to be as outgoing and progressive. There are a couple of people, I can't think of the name right now, but there's a fellow who did some great, wonderful books in the 80s, and I've often thought I might suggest those to a publisher if they haven't been done yet. Well, they haven't been done
yet. Now, you don't have to go through an agent, whereas for your acting for television or commercials or that, you have an agent that probably submits you, but with the voice acting for the narration, the publishers are contacting you directly.
That's right. Well, I've been around for so long that they pretty much all know me and do come to me. And there aren't that many agents around, if any, who will work for audiobooks. I have an agent, but he's happy to let me do my own thing with audiobooks because actually I don't think there's that much money. When you think of the amount of time it takes to record and the amount of money we make, their 10% or whatever is not going to be a huge amount given.
No, and it's probably not worth them trying to negotiate, anything. Plus, you can just do it yourself. I mean, they're coming for you. Well, Simon, let's give out your website again. It's simonvance.com. Be looking for him on television. We hope that he won't die in his next series. And, of course, whenever you get an audiobook, look for Simon's name on it because if it's a British accent, most likely it is Simon. Simon, it's been just a pleasure to have you here on the air with us on Starstyle, Be the Star You Are. And good luck for your future. I don't think you need it. You're so established. You're doing so well. And I hope you have fun voting in the SAG Awards and watching them. And there should be a SAG Award for book narration. Maybe that's coming.
We'll work towards that.
Well, we'll have to work on that. Well, thank you again, Simon, for being with us today. And thank all of you listeners allowing me into your life every week. Make sure you are tuned in to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, every Wednesday, 4 to 5, on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. We want to be your personal growth success coaches. We want to bring you these experts from around the world who can really change your life, and they entertain and inform and challenge you to be the best you can be. If you're interested in knowing more about the charity Be the Star You Are, literacy charity and positive media that brings you this show, visit BeTheStarYouAre.org. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, amuse, and motivate. And until next week, when we celebrate again, remember, love always wins, kindness prevails, and smiles will keep us happy. My name is Cynthia Brian for Starstyle, thanking you and encouraging you to be the star you are. Have a wonderful week. Pick up a book by Simon Vance as a narrator, shoot for the stars, and make this the best year ever. Thanks for joining me.
Be the star you are. The star you are. Be the star you are.
It's been a pleasure bringing you our life-changing program, Starstyle, Be the Star You Are. We have you on our radar, as it's our goal to inspire, inform, entertain, and motivate you to be the star you were born to be. For more information, visit www.starstyleradio.com. And to make a donation to the charity, go to www.bethestaryouare.org. Ignite the flame that burns brightly within. Take charge of your life and coach yourself to success with our dynamic hosts, Cynthia Brian and Heather Brittany, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Voice America Empowerment Channel for another serving of champagne for the spirit and a power boost to live with Starstyle. Until we celebrate together next week, be the star you are.